What's up, LEGO builders? Recently, I've been feeling like something's missing in my life. A key puzzle piece that could unlock lasting happiness and satisfaction. But instead of going to therapy about it, I decided it had to be the fact that there isn't a single LEGO Venator in my collection. So today, we're exploring Venator mocs as cheap as $1 all the way up to way too much as I try to find the perfect one. If you're ready, make sure to execute order 66 on that like button and let's get building. I thought we could warm up today with a little $1 Venator. With how expensive the last mock will be, I need all the cheap builds I can get. It was much harder than I thought to stay near $1 and build a half decent mock, so I'll probably end up going over for the sake of a better build. This little guy looks like a tugboat and a Venator had a baby, but I kinda like it. I added up the part costs based off of the Bricklink average value, and the total came to exactly $1. But it really needs some work in the dump truck department. Using a jumper plate, some 1x1 brackets, and studs, I was able to create some serviceable engines that really elevate the ship. But let's be honest, you're not here for tiny Venators, so let's move on. And just when I was starting to enjoy myself making another Star Wars video, we come to this Imperial mock. But not everyone's a prequel fanboy like me, so here goes. This is an alt build for the LEGO MIDI scale Super Star Destroyer done by Nick Wood 5 on Rebrickable, who I've linked in the description. It's an Imperial Venator that I've been wanting to build for months now. In fact, I was going to do a whole MIDI scale fleet challenge with a couple of these modified to be Republic and some acclimators last year, but couldn't finalize the concept into a full video. I was able to get the Super Star Destroyer used on eBay for quite cheap, though it was one of the most dusty sets I've ever gotten and needed a deep clean. This was a super easy build and came together fast. It might work well if you want to do some kind of destruction of Camino mock like we saw in the Bad Batch, in a scale that won't bankrupt you and could look cool on a shelf. You may find it hard to believe, but for as big of a Clone Wars and prequel fan that I am, I don't own a single Venator, whether a mock or set. I did have another alt build Venator for a little while made by Creation Caravan using a couple acclimators, but I took it apart to display the original build, so hopefully after today, I'll be a more dedicated and worthy Clone Wars fanboy. Let me know in the comments how many LEGO Venators are in your collection. I think this is a size of LEGO ship that no one really asked for or was interested in, but I'll be honest. The MIDI scale line of ships are really growing on me. The MIDI Acclimator was one of my favorite LEGO Star Wars sets from last year, and this mock fits right in with my growing fleet. Plus, instead of shelling out the $80 US for the MIDI Venator LEGO just released, you can pick up a Super Star Destroyer on the secondhand market for like 30 to 50 bucks and build this, using that extra money saved for the Nigerian prince that keeps emailing you. Unfortunately, it will be an inferior Imperial Venator, but that can always be changed with some modification. Well, since I've already done one Imperial Venator, we might as well do another to even out the video. This is the play scale level, and we've jumped up in price range to the triple digits. I've got another alt build for your enjoyment, this one by the talented Aeronobilis98, who many of you will remember did the impressive Acclimator build I showcased last year. And get this, not only are both this Venator and that Acclimator alt builds of the same set, but this legend also did a Lucrehulk class battleship as well, all coming from the 2024 Imperial Star Destroyer. Talk about flexing the building skills. Who needs new sets when you could just build whatever you want from the same one? That's one of the coolest aspects of an alt build. You get a whole new build and play experience without needing to buy another set. This builder really goes all out to make sure their alt build has its own cool features and functions. Both ships I've done have sported an actual usable interior with chairs and computers, as well as more space in the rear hangar areas, and even included working landing gear for the Acclimator. The instructions cost $10 but are worth it and really well made. No confusing steps, and this build comes together just like a LEGO set. So if you're interested, please go support this incredible builder and buy some instructions. I've linked them in the description as well. One thing I really enjoy is seeing how an alt build is designed because of the parts limitation. No extra parts are needed for this set, which is crazy to think considering how symmetrical this build looks, even down to the engines on the back. Even the greebling on the sides of the hull match up. I'm just at a loss for how you can sit down with a jumble of parts like this and create a whole new ship. Alt builders, let me know your secrets in the comments. Aeronobilis, you brick wizard, you've done it again. This playscale Venator is everything you could ask for in an alt build. It's big, it's got an interior, and best of all, it looks really good. Sometimes alt builds can look unfinished or maybe not completely accurate, but that's just because of how limiting the available parts can be. Compare this to the LEGO Playscale Venator from 2009, and I would argue the alt looks better and more accurate. I do think the 09 Venator might have a bigger, better interior, but this one does have multiple rooms in the main hangar area and even has a cup of coffee, since the clones probably needed a little pick-me-up after having to obliterate their home planet. The rear hangar has a minifig seating cannon for defending the ship, and there are a couple secret storage areas for extra weapons or special minifigs you don't want falling into the hands of younger cousins during a family get-together. I do think I still prefer the Acclimator alt build to this one, but that's probably just due to my Acclimator bias. I've warmed up, dropped the appetizers, got you excited about Venators, and now it's time for the main course. The reason this whole video even exists. This final level has a price range that I'm not even ready to admit to yet, but this level is comparable in size and piece count to the LEGO UCS sets. Unfortunately, this build process starts with a small mountain of pieces, all purchased from Bricklink, which need to be unpackaged and sorted before I can even start building. This is one reason why I tend to stay away from larger mocs designed by other people, just because it's such an ordeal to even get to the starting line, which is then usually followed by a multi-day/week building session. But when it came to getting my first large-scale Venator, only the best was good enough. I spent the final months of last year hunting for the perfect Venator, debating the merits of LEGO's UCS version with Brickvault's insane UCCS Venator. The former being much cheaper and easier to build with all the sorted bags, but much less visually appealing and lacked the opening and closing hangar bay which I really wanted. But the Brickvault one has almost 12,000 pieces, and the cost? Well, that just wasn't gonna happen. Then in November, Brickvault debuted a new design created by Flying Space mocs, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized this is what I've been waiting for. So I purchased the instructions, and here we are. While in the early stages of construction, I was worried it would end up looking undersized because, well, it was looking small, and I was told it's slightly smaller than the UCS Venator, but as I kept building and more panels were added, it filled out nicely, and when I thought back on my original goal and desires for securing a Venator, it was to find and build the best Venator possible, not necessarily just the biggest, so I don't feel like I missed out by passing on the LEGO set. Unfortunately, Flying Space Designs doesn't have an opening hangar on the front, which I could have added to the UCS Venator with some modifications, but I decided I valued a beautiful, impressive display piece the most right now, and even with all the mods, the UCS version wouldn't look as impressive. I was particularly excited to build the engine portion at the back of the ship, because that's one of my favorite parts of the Venator. I don't know why, but I just love all the giant ion drive thrusters nestled together, and you also get the perfect pop of blue at the end of each one that contrasts with the gray of the ship. I was also interested to see how the greebling running along the sides would come together, because large Star Wars ships like this usually have a mess of random greebling pieces, and it's fun to see what parts are thrown in there. This time around, we've got pot handles, binoculars, and even some skis that all mesh together in such a pleasing way. There is a hangar entrance on either side of the Venator, which can be built in an open or closed configuration. The upper panels are a work of art and built in a way to get the red stripes to look as accurate as possible. I would show you how it's all connected to get this impressive shape, but you gotta buy the instructions for those secrets to be revealed. To my surprise, there are relatively few large plates and tiles used. Most of the exterior paneling is built using an insanely complicated pattern of snot bricks, even down to the Open Circle Fleet logo that used some pretty unexpected pieces in its construction. I kept seeing parts used in ways I'd never even imagined or thought possible, helping to keep the build process fun and engaging. That being said, it is a very complex and complicated build. And of course, the instructions to this can be found in the description of the video as well. Man, where do I even begin with this mock? I don't think there is a single piece in my collection that looks as accurate or faithful to the original reference material as this ship does. Flying Space really spared no expense getting every angle, hangar bay, and corner just right, and I know because my bank account had to be put on life support getting all the pieces for this. It cost me a staggering $870-ish US to source all the parts, but that's also including tax and shipping. Normally that's more than I'll pay for a display piece, but man, how can you be disappointed looking at a mock like this? I could go on and on about the designs and techniques used in this mock, but we'd be here longer than it took Palpatine to actually die. Needless to say, this is such a beautiful display piece, and if you thought the top looked good, Flying Space put just as much effort into the underside, which hardly even gets to be seen, which is kinda sad considering how satisfying it looks. They even included a hangar where you can dock tiny frigates and other Republic ships. It's gonna take a little while to recover from the cost of this video, but I hope as time goes by I'll enjoy the results of my Venator journey more and more. I will say this model has a lot of delicate panels, so it's best to get everything positioned how you want, then put this thing somewhere safe and out of reach. Hopefully this video showed that there are some great Venator options out there for all different budgets and situations, you just have to know where to look. Don't forget to let me know what you think of these ships in the comments, and until next time, happy building.